Hello and welcome to this session where we talk about a whole new way to access Business Central. My name is Mike Borg-Cardona. I'm a product manager at Microsoft, and today I'm joined by my colleague Monica.
Hello and welcome. My name is Monica Ahuja. I'm a software engineer in Business Central engineering team, and I have the pleasure of presenting this exciting topic.
Now, when you think about how our customers connect to Business Central today, from any device, from the office, from a home, from the factory floor, on the go, they always must have a Business Central license. And what this means for most small to mid-sized organizations is that mission-critical data becomes siloed behind this wall of licenses. It makes it really hard for a team to come together and quickly make data-driven decisions as they navigate these uncertain times. In the case of projects that span across departments, again, challenges with the right data being accessible to the right people. And that changes today. So for the very first time in Business Central's history, we are thrilled to announce that you can now also access Business Central using your Microsoft 365 subscription. That's right, we set out to give Microsoft 365 customers access to Dynamics 365 data at no additional cost. And Business Central is actually the first of the Dynamics 365 applications that makes it possible for every employee in the organization to tap into the latest business data and also fully participate in collaborative tasks. Now, this is not a new license in itself, but if you compare it to our portfolio of Business Central licenses, think of this as the little sister. It's the lightest way of accessing Business Central while still offering tremendous amount of value. In fact, your Microsoft 365 subscription now entitles you to read Business Central data, but not write, through a simplified user interface in Microsoft Teams. So in this session, we hope to inspire you with a few demos, a few stories that illustrate how your organization could benefit from this. You will learn the 7 key points that make this particular way of accessing Business Central different from all the others and use it to plan your approach. We're going to show you how simple we've made it for administrators to enable this, to opt in, to configure and to govern this whole new category of users. And of course, we'll have some links to resources to help you get started. So to see this in action, let's imagine that I'm part of a small business where we're great at organizing events. And the event of this month is an anniversary party for our customer, Alpine Ski House. So here I am in Business Central, and this is the invoice I'm going to use to track the expenses for this event that we're going to build up over time as we plan it and as we execute it. Now, I really need the team to pull together here. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually share this to a Teams channel where we manage these kind of events. I'll pick the channel there. And this includes a small card for the sales invoice. I'm just going to share that to the team channel. And this is great because now I can really rally the team around this one particular invoice, and we make sure we're all of us focused on this one particular event. So let's go to Teams now and just see what that looks like. Here's the sales invoice that I posted into the chat. Now I'm going to drill into the details for this invoice. And I'm just going to set a good example for my team by making the first few adjustments that I needed to make here to the sales lines. So they're buying more champagne for the event, so I'm just going to up this number to 42. There we go. That change has been saved back. Now, as the conversation progresses, what we'll find is that this invoice is just going to get lost. It's going to scroll out of view. So I really want to make sure that everybody can access this super conveniently. So I'm going to use this pin function here to pin the invoice as a tab at the top of my channel. I'll start the conversation about it. Hi, team. Please make sure the amounts are correct in the line items. Now, the whole team can have a conversation about this data and also contribute sales lines as well and make corrections. Now, unfortunately, not everyone in my team has a Business Central license. Those that don't would typically get an access denied message at this point, and they wouldn't be able to be part of the conversation. However, now that we allow access through Microsoft 365 licenses, I'd like Monica to show us what her viewpoint is. Monica, you have a Microsoft 365 license, you're using Teams, you're part of this team and team channel, but you don't have a Business Central license. What do things look like from your viewpoint?
Well, let me go to Teams and check this out. So I'm here in Teams, and I can see that you have added a tab on top of this channel, and you want us to make sure that the amounts are correct on the line items. So let me go to this tab. I only have Microsoft 365 license. I do not have a Business Central license. So would like to see if I get access to the data, and yay, I do get access to the data. I can read the details of the invoice for the ongoing event. I cannot edit anything. I cannot delete the entity, but I do see the whole line items, and I can see that they haven't added the cupcake. So let me add this to Mike. So I convinced them to buy some cupcakes. Will you please add it in the line items? And looks good. I can see that I do not have access to navigation bar or fact box, but this was good enough for me to continue the collaboration.
So the license which you were using to access Business Central actually determines what experience you're going to have as you view this content. Here, if we compare my screen on the left and Monica's on the right, you can see some of the key differences that she mentioned. It's the same record, it's the same page, it's the same tab, but we each have a unique view of this content. So I have access to actions, Monica does not. I have access to the Factbox pane, but Monica does not. And I can modify records, but Monica cannot. So as you can see, we're helping individuals and teams work smarter this way. By combining Business Central and Teams, we're building just a new generation of collaborative applications that really help people efficiently work together to achieve their goals. Now, the whole team can access the right data at the right time in the right context to make quick and effective decisions together. And we've removed all of that friction that came with having to ask for a license and wait for that. That's all gone now. All of this equates to improved team performance at the end of the day. Now, I'm sure you're excited to apply this to your own context. So next, we want to make sure you understand the 7 key points which make this way of accessing Business Central so unique and so different. This is how the platform provides access for Microsoft 365 licensed users. First of all, users with a Microsoft 365 license can access data only within Microsoft Teams. And that means not the Business Central web client and mobile applications, not other surfaces in the world of Business Central like the Outlook add-in or Excel, and not even Business Central API. So it is strictly Teams. Focus is on Teams because that's the place where people go to collaborate. It's the hub for collaboration. And there's a key point here, which is that when you share data in Teams, as I did, I shared data into a Teams conversation. For Monica to access that data, it starts with me, that licensed Business Central user, being able to share, but I must also share in the right way that keeps Monica within Teams. So if I were to share just a link, a deep link to a Business Central record, to that invoice, what would happen? Monica would click that, and that would fundamentally throw her out of Teams and open up the browser, open up Business Central. So Business Central data really shows up in 2 ways inside Microsoft Teams. We have the ability to add a tab to a Teams chat or channel, where you can embed any kind of data inside that tab, such as a list view or a long-running sales invoice. And then there are different ways to share a card. So get that card into Teams, and clicking on the card details also opens up sort of a window into Business Central where you can view all of those details there. There's different ways to do that. You can paste a link, and if you have the Business Central app for Teams, that will turn into a card. You can use the Share to Teams function like I did from the Business Central web client. You could also search for business contacts and share those contacts. All of these result in a card being shared to the chat. Now, everyone in the channel can see the card, but the moment they go and access those card details, that's where they need to have access, either through a Business Central license and now also through that Microsoft 365 license. Now, we mentioned a few things that are different depending on what license you have. In fact, UI is simplified, the experience has been simplified, and a few things have been trimmed away just to give a more focused experience for this new category of users. The platform enforces all of this, so it just happens automatically. So we talked about, for example, data being read-only. You cannot write or create or delete records. But then also what we do is we do provide basic features to work with lists of data, like the ability to search, the ability to sort, and also to change the layout of a list. Microsoft 365 users don't get access to some of the more advanced functions when working with lists, such as the filter pane and the ability to work with different views. From a list, you can drill down into the card details of a record, but that's where it ends. You can't access related data that navigates you away to completely different tables of information. So, for example, you cannot drill down on a field or use lookups. You cannot peek into a related record. And also fact boxes, which tend to show facts from related tables. Those are also not available for this category of user. Actions, no matter where they are displayed, are trimmed away. So if you've got actions in the action bar, actions in the context menu for a row, even actions in page notifications, none of those are available for this category of user. And also there are a certain set of system-wide shortcuts as well that trigger features like Tell Me and being able to navigate to other pages, like My Settings, others like the Page Inspector. Those are not available either in this context. We have enabled some basic copy functionality, so you can copy and paste information like copy a field or copy a row and then take that and paste that out into, let's say, Outlook. That is possible. And also personalization is one of the things which is only partly available really if you consider things like adjusting a column width. That is possible, but anything more than that, where you have to go into a personalization mode to move fields around or hide fields and so on, that is also not possible with this particular license type. And finally, there's also a whole bunch of different share capabilities which are not possible for this category of user. So what are the minimum requirements for you to be able to use this in terms of your Microsoft 365 subscription? Where basically employees accessing Business Central this way, they must have a license, they must have Teams, of course, they must be using Teams, it's all about being inside Teams. But their Microsoft 365 license must originate from one of these plans on this list. And basically we've included small business plans, we've included enterprise level plans for information workers and for frontline workers as well. Now, if you've subscribed to some specific Microsoft 365 plan that you don't see listed here, do talk to us. We are very interested in understanding your particular scenario and to see how we can support you in the future. Now, there are some additional rules as well that are good to know about. You cannot have an organization that 100% runs on Microsoft 365 licenses to access Business Central. You need to have at least one of the other Business Central licenses in there. And speaking of requirements from Microsoft 365, there's also requirements from a Business Central standpoint. Monica, could you tell us more about that?
Yes, Mike. So data access using Microsoft 365 licenses is only available to Business Central Online, which is also referred as SaaS from Microsoft. It's not available for all other deployments like on-premises, hosted, hybrid, or private cloud. However, there's no restriction on which object types or where the objects comes from. All the objects are supported. Objects can come from Microsoft-based application or customizations or add-ons or even embedded ISV objects. That just means that Microsoft 365 license is ready to work with your customizations and solutions. Microsoft 365 license access is only applied for internal users in your organization. Guest users and external users are restricted with this access. Now let's talk about the administration experience. As an admin, you're in full control. You have the flexibility to adapt to your organizational needs. The minimal steps to enable access for Microsoft 365 users include deploying app for all employees, setting starting permissions, and enabling the feature from Admin Center. Let's go through these one by one. The first step is to deploy the app for all employees. Administrators can use centralized deployment setup in Business Central that provides step-by-step guided experience to deploy the Business Central app in Teams for all the employees. If you have used this before to deploy the app for Business Central users, we recommend that you go on and rerun it to get the app for everyone in the organization. You can also ask users to get the app in multiple other different ways. For example, they can go to App Marketplace to get the app. They can paste a link and get an option to install the app inside the Teams, or they can use the direct link called aka.ms/pcgetteamsapp, or they can get the app from the wizard that is meant for individual deployment. Let's talk about second step, which is to set starting permissions. Administrators must establish permissions for all first-time sign-ins. This would mean to assign default permissions for Microsoft 365 license using License Configuration Administration screen. All environments, production and sandbox, are pre-configured to have access to no entities. So administrators must go on and add some starting permissions to give access to some entities that they want for Microsoft 365 license users. These permissions are only effective when we enable the switch in Business Central Admin Center, and that's the next step. Before going to the next step, you can add D365 Read to give you an easy start. You can optionally configure the permissions for environments and companies as well. Or you can assign scenario-specific custom and permissions. For example, you can just go ahead and say, let me add the permissions for rental vehicle scenario. Platform will always ensure that there is only read-only access through entitlements. Even if you end up having permissions that give write access, the check is finally done on the platform side to ensure read access. And the final step is that administrators can go to Business Central Admin Center and enable the switch per environment. So let's see how that's done. So we are in Admin Center for Business Central, and we can just go to production environment. And as you can see, there is a new option available to turn on Microsoft 365 license access. It's off by default, so we can just go ahead and enable it. If you don't see this option, it's only because it's going to be available in 21.1. So let us just go ahead and enable it. Ultimately, it's a simple switch to enable Microsoft 365 license access for users. I'm just going to enable it. And that's it. Those were the 3 minimal steps that were needed for providing access for Microsoft 365 license users from Teams. But as an administrator, you have more flexible options. You can manage users in Business Central and adjust their permissions after they sign in. And you can control who has access using security groups in Admin Center. Let's see how. As you are already aware of, administrators can manage licenses in Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Let's take an example of my user. As you know, I only have Office license and not Business Central license in this case. So before I've ever signed in through tabs or cards in Teams, this is how the administrator sees the view of users list. There's no Monica user in this case. Once I've signed in, the administrators can see me in this users list. And also, as seen from fact boxes, I get configured for M365 license. I also get the initial permission sets that were set using the license configuration in one of the steps shown before. I'm also part of Teams user group, and I get an employee role. Administrators can add customizations to this new employee role for Microsoft 365 users. So we saw how to manage users after their first sign-in. Now let's go ahead and see how we can adjust permissions once the user has signed in. So you're already familiar with this. This is the permission system that we have in Business Central already. Once the user gets to Business Central, as an administrator, you can just go ahead and add new permissions to this user's card. In this case, we have removed D365 Read and added Sales Read. You can control who gets access to Business Central using security groups in Business Central Admin Center. Let's see how we can do that. As an administrator, you would need to create some AAD security groups. You can either add direct members to this security group or nest other groups if you have already created some. In this case, we have created a security group for people who can access Business Central data. So now, in Business Central Admin Center, we can then define security group per environment. Notice that since this is per environment, you have the flexibility to decide who gets access to a specific environment. So for example, if one of your environment is for country Denmark, then you get to create a group and assign users that should only access Denmark's environment. So let's go ahead and click it. We see the Business Central AAD security group that we created before. I'm going to just select it and save it. It is also important to note that even if a user do have Business Central license or Microsoft 365 license, if they are not part of this security group, they won't get access to Business Central environment. So we talked about the minimal steps that are needed to enable Microsoft 365 license access and also other flexible options that you have as an admin.
So, of course, the most important thing here is that switch in the admin center, right, to enable this capability for a specific environment.
Exactly.
And it's very important to mention this point as well, which is that switch is only available for environments which are upgraded to version 21.1 or later. So that's version 21.1 of Business Central. Now, once you've set up all of these things, these three minimalist things that needs to be set up and configured by the administrator to opt into this capability, when you, Monica, you access Business Central for the very first time in Teams, accessing a tab or a card that's been shared with you, Business Central identifies that you have a Microsoft 365 license. It provisions a user record for you in Business Central. It takes all of those permissions that the admin has configured as the starting permissions and grants those to you and assigns you to the Teams user group and the employee role. And basically, if all of the permissions line up there, you get access to that data, right? If I understood correctly.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So now let's take a look at a different story, where using Microsoft 365 to access Business Central data can make a difference. Let's take Kronos International now, a mid-sized organization that's organized into different departments. And some of those departments run on Business Central. Some of them only have a few people who use a Business Central license, but then there's organizations such as sales and marketing, or maybe the field service team that does not run on Business Central at all. But even these departments often need to access business data that is recent, that they need to actually complete their tasks, complete their jobs. So for example, the service team continually asks for 2 bits of data. One of them is, please, can we have access to product details? We really need to read the detailed information about products. And the other one is, help us track purchases that we're waiting for, as we work with our customers and go and service the products that we sold them. So let's see how we can help in this situation. Let's start by helping out the field service team. They've invited me to their team and team channel so that I could help them out and plant the right data in the right place so that they can self-serve. Let me start by adding a tab. I'll find the Business Central app for Teams here. And I will add a tab for the items list. There we go, there's my items list. We'll give them a view of the premium chairs that we sell, and like this, I'll have easy access to this information. So that's the first problem solved. They never need to ask me again for details about items. Now, of course, they need to have the right permissions here, again, as Monica described, but as long as they have that, they can self-serve. They have access to this data now. The next thing I needed was purchase invoices, and I want to share that with them. Let's create a second tab. Now here in the recommended content for me, I don't have purchase invoices, so I'll just need to go to Business Central to just copy a link to that there. And once I'm in there, one of the things I'd like to do is actually trim down what the sales field service team will actually see in Teams. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for the profiles list. I'm going to find the employee role. So as Monica showed, the employee is a new profile that shows up here in our very long list of roles that Business Central offers. And I'm going to customize pages for this specific role now. So I'm sort of zooming in into the employee profile. I'm going to make some lightweight UI changes just to trim things down so that field service folks don't need to get distracted by the information they actually don't really need. So let's go to the purchase invoices list. I'm just going to make a few light adjustments. Let's remove the location code and the user ID. There we go. We can remove the vendor number since they have the vendor name. And they're going to be drilling down into these invoices. So I'll do a few lightweight customizations here. Let's see what I can do to help them out. Let's remove the reference numbers. And again, the location code won't be needed. And that's done. So what I've done here is I've simply trimmed down the amount of information that they're going to see. This is not a replacement for security, but it is a great way to provide a more simplified view of Business Central data, which sometimes can be quite advanced, quite complex, right? But I'm simplifying it and trimming it down so that anyone who has the employee profile will be able to see it in this way. So all I have left to do now is switch back to my purchase invoices list. Here it is. I'm just going to copy a link to this page. I'll go to Teams, and now I'll use the option to paste a link to a page instead. Let's call it purchases. I'll paste the URL. I'll hit save. So, because each of these users in the field service team, as they click onto this tab, into the purchases tab or the items tab, for the very first time. Again, their permissions get provisioned based on what the administrator set, and if they have access to these things, they will be able to view them. And because they are assigned that employee role, which basically, we should think of as it's the non-role specific profile in the world of Business Central. It's the profile for all the employees in the organization. They essentially get these UI customizations as well and see a trimmed down version of the purchase invoices. Here, because I don't have those UI customizations, as I'm signed in and looking at that tab, I actually see all of those fields and columns myself that I can work with. So you've just seen how empowering my field service team with the right data, it just eliminates the need for that constant collaboration where really it's just about asking and begging for data. So self-serve trumps collaboration in this case. So as long as they have that valid Microsoft 365 license, permissions have been set up correctly, they'll be able to access this information. Everyone on that team will be able to do so. So let's pause here for a moment. If you're a partner selling Business Central, this is actually a new way for you to get Business Central into those departments that don't yet run on Business Central. So you have an opportunity here to show those users what they are missing out on. And really this opens the door for you to have a conversation as their supporting partner with that department and that department manager to talk about how you can help streamline their processes, how you can help improve team performance by making Business Central a key part of what they do every day. And maybe through that also, purchase a few Business Central licenses that will help them contribute to the data and write the data, modify the data as well. And finally, think about your solution being also something that can be collaborative. These same collaboration stories that we showed here essentially transfer to your IP, to your solution. So you can build these concepts into your solution. Consultants and salespeople can tell a compelling story of people getting together to solve problems, departments self-serving until it's the right time for them to fully adopt Business Central. And you can easily roll out the right tabs with your custom pages, your custom data to different departments that you may not even directly serve with your solution as well. So you can prepare content for the other departments that maybe a customer has and operates that may be interested in the data that's captured inside Business Central. So Monica, could you show us how developers now can actually automate tab creation so they can work this into their solution as a part of their solution?
Sure, Mike. So as Mike said, as a partner, you can make tabs as part of your solution. Microsoft Graph allows you to have multiple APIs to create teams, channels, and add tabs to that channel. Here's an example on how to add tab. You can post to this API by specifying the team ID and channel ID specific to your need. You also have to specify Business Central App ID, which is a must. And as an entity ID, you can specify something unique. And for content URL, you have to add the /teams, which gives the embedded experience and authenticates using the Teams library that we have seen before. So assume that we went ahead and posted this API. Then we get the new tab ready. That's how simple it is.
That's fantastic, Monica. So let's now summarize everything we've heard here. For the first time in Business Central's history, you can access Business Central using your Microsoft 365 license. And what that does is it gives you read access in Microsoft Teams using a simplified UI. And this is something you can use to improve your team's performance, but also to empower different people across the organization to self-serve, unlocking data for everyone in that organization. And of course, none of this would be possible without our administrators being in control, being able to govern that data. So we also showed you the 3 simple steps that you need to take as an admin to enable this great capability. And of course, the optional things that allow flexibility to really adapt this to how your organization is set up. And of course, this is available from update 21.1. And if you're excited to jump in, here are some great links to get you started. Follow these links to get all kinds of information about how this works, some of the other nuances we weren't able to cover today. And of course, this is very Teams-centric, right? So also take advantage of some of the great documentation we have here to learn about Business Central's integration with Teams, how that works and how to manage that. And if you have a few more minutes, we highly recommend watching some of these related sessions. Check out Collaborating in Microsoft Teams to learn more in-depth information about working with tabs in Teams. And if you're looking for what else is new in the world of connecting Office applications and Business Central, definitely recommend Keeping Productive with Microsoft 365 and the session on the Power Platform. So those are some really great content that you can also work into this whole story of giving access to Microsoft 365 users. So that's all we have time for today. We are so excited about this new era, really, for Business Central, where we can really get Business Central into the hands of everyone across the organization, opening up that data, unlocking that data, so that people can get access to the data they need inside Teams and improve their team performance and work smarter and work better together. So with that, we'd really like to thank you for your time, and we hope you put this to good use. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.